To make a decal, you can use any graphic editing program. Now make sure when you open your project, it needs to be a 1:1 texture ratio. It can be 1024 on 1024, 496 on 496. Make sure to take a pretty high resolution image, or your decal would appear pixelated when placed on the final model. Now I'm gonna create a new project. If you aim for a realistic image, it doesn't need to be realistic. We're gonna add all of these realism details inside Substance Painter after we make our decal. Now I'm just gonna be making my decal real quick. I wanna define whatever area I would like it to be. When you make your decal, a very important thing to do at the end, and you'll see just why soon enough, is to make an alpha mask. To make an alpha mask, you basically mark in white all of the parts you want to be visible, and in black whatever you don't want to be visible. The entire image needs to be a black and white image. We make a black background. I'm gonna take my main yellow area here, mask that onto the white background. The image is basically white, where I will have the decal itself, and black around it. I need to export my image twice. I'm gonna export this as quick PNG. For naming sake, I'm gonna name this export camera decal alpha, call it diffuse, just to separate which is which. When you import your decals into Substance Painter, for the alpha you need to define it as an alpha mask, and for the diffuse you need to define it as a texture. To place our decal inside Substance Painter and be able to edit its values later on, I'm gonna do things, make a fill layer, give it a black mask, and on top of that black mask I'm gonna place my camera alpha. So let's say I would like my sticker to have this like rotation value, and I would like it to be placed up here. Now make sure when you place your decal that you have all of the jitter values set to 0, and then it will be placed exactly where you want it and not be jittered around. Now that we've placed this, I'm gonna use this layer for texture values. So I'm gonna remove the color, I'm gonna enable roughness and metallicness. Now I want my decal to be very, very reflective. Now that we've added our texture values under here, I'm gonna make a paint layer. I'm gonna remove all of the material values from here except for the color value. Make sure I have dropped my diffuse decal into here and my diffuse alpha onto here, and there we go. Our decal looks really bland right now. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make a new folder and call this camera decal scratching. I'm gonna take my two other layers into that folder, and then I'm gonna give it a white mask. I'm gonna set it to orthographic view by pressing F6 and clicking Shift Alt to lock into a certain angle. I would like to make it look realistic, and to do that I'm gonna go to my brushes tab and pick some really rough brushes, like the bark brush. I'm using my pen pressure here, but you can do it with your mouse as well. And I'm gonna slowly but surely paint. For now I'm just doing the big details, but I'll be going more close up around the edges. Maybe have this go a little bit inside. Now I would like to look for a different brush. I also really like the dirt spots brush. Gives it this dotted view, like something scraped against it, and we can see how it looks now. Now let's say this isn't enough and we would like to even add some color degradation. I'm gonna copy our texture values layer. I'm gonna change it to color mask. Now note that this layer has the exact same mask that is around this sticker, which is why I've copied it. I'm gonna remove these two layers, and instead I'm gonna give it a color layer. I'm gonna look for a slightly rough color, something like a green. I really like this washed out green, so I'm gonna be keeping it. I'm gonna make another folder, and on this folder I'm gonna call it color mask editor. And I'm gonna putting this one inside that one. Be adding a black mask, and you see our color mask instantly disappeared. I'm gonna add a generator, and on this generator add a mask editor. Go into our mask view from the top here. I'm gonna set global blur to 0, increase texture opacity, and for the textures I would like something rough. So I'm gonna search for dirt, and I'm gonna take maybe some of these washed out directional noises and maybe this like grunge dirt. You see how it's already looking a little bit more realistic, even though it's not showing up around our area. We can increase the world space normal, opacity, maybe position gradient, and now by pressing M I can go to see our material view again. This is where we can actually adjust our mask accordingly. It's not very visible, I think, so I'm gonna increase the colors brightness. Actually, let's have it set to bright red for now, and then once we're happy with it we can maybe change it a little bit more. Maybe increase the contrast a little bit. This looks nice. Something like this dark green. This is without, this is with the washed out color. It looks very nice, I think. Now if we wanted to even add more color variation, we can just copy this entire color mask editor, go here, change our brown maybe, and we can go onto our editor mask and change some settings, or even go ahead and change one of our textures. And now we have these like brown dots. Currently you can see how my text is not very readable in here. This is because I'm using the 2K view option, but if I were to set it to 4K, now we can see our texture quality is very high. We can read everything. So this is just our roughness, this is our decal without roughness, and now we can add the colors onto it, and finally enable our sketch mask, which after all gives it a very different look, I think, than what we first started with, and it's all very nicely put and adjustable. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this helped you. Now let's say I would have saved my decal as an image that isn't a 1:1 ratio texture like this. Let's say I wanted to place it. You can see how it appears really stretched. Substance Painter stretches it to a 1:1 ratio texture. Let's say I would have taken my normal 1:1 ratio texture and place it. See how this one appears normal. But I didn't place the alpha, so we have this like artifacts around it because we have set a custom roughness and metallicness to the decal. To get rid of these, we're gonna have to go into our alpha, and I'm gonna look for my camera decal. And now you can see how the decal shape has changed inside Substance. Let's say I place it. You can see we have no artifacts around our decal.